Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Synod of the Sun's April webinar series. My name is Valerie Young, and I serve as the Synod leader and stated clerk for the Synod of the Sun. Checking, make sure everyone is getting on board. Here we go. Okay, before I introduce our speaker today, I want to make certain that you are all aware of the other offerings for the rest of this month. So get your pens ready or take a screenshot of the screen right now. Wednesday, April 29th at 9 a.m., we're grateful to have folks from the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance and the Emotional and Spiritual Care team to provide a live support webinar for clergy and faith leaders who are parents of young children. We're keenly aware of the recent demands of juggling ministry with the technology of today, parenting, and now being teachers for school-aged kids. Our prayer is that this time together will offer the support and tools that you need to wade in these waters. Thursday, April 30th at 2 p.m., we'll again welcome a team from Presbyterian Disaster Assistance who will bring us tools for building resilience. Designed for general audiences, this webinar will engage participants to help create a personalized self-care and resilience building plan. We encourage members of congregations and specifically those serving on session to join us. The program is about an hour long and will include a question and answer period at the end. Registration is required for all of the webinars. So if you don't find the information in your email inbox, look for it on the Synod of the Sun's Facebook page. Today, I'm pleased to welcome the Reverend Kevin Keaton, Church Consultant for the Board of Pensions of the PCUSA. Kevin will be presenting about the board's COVID response efforts, as well as changes and additions to benefits for 2021. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get them addressed at the end of each section. For those viewing via Facebook Live, you can type your questions into the video comments. Kevin, I know you have a lot of really good information to share, so I'm going to let you go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you for hosting this, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone to bring you up to speed on recent developments that the board is making to try to support churches and serve the church in these very unusual times. One of the things that I will be sharing is some updated information. Hopefully it will be new to most of you. And at the end, of course, we will have time for questions. Halfway through, we will also pause for questions because I plan to present this in two different segments. First, on the various resources in this particular time. Then we'll pause. And then I will do a brief introduction of the 2021 benefits plan to help make you familiar with some of the new terminology, as well as some of the new offerings that are be available to congregations as we look into next year. Let's get the screen to, there we go. One of the things I do want to reassure folks is that the Board of Pensions is remaining open. Although our offices in Philadelphia are closed, you can always call there, email staff, anything that you need to do with the board, we can continue to do it. The only thing we're currently not doing is sending or receiving physical mail. Everything's being done electronically, and that is working thus far. And our staff is working very hard, particularly in responding to some of the requests for waivers. We'll get into that in a second. Also want to reassure folks, particularly our retired members and those on disability, that all those checks as planned are being sent out. The board is completely well-funded, is able to meet the needs during this time of need. One of the things that folks continue to ask me is, does the board have enough money? And of course we do. The board routinely keeps over a year's worth of liquidity so that it can meet the demands of our members' claims, both in their disability claims, their normal pension checks, but also their healthcare and pharmacy claims that come through every month. So the board maintains those funds so that it can respond throughout the year, and particularly in times like these, without having to go in and sell off what are now depreciated assets. So the board has good fiscal management to meet those needs. Another thing that we are continuing to do, and we do have ample funds through our assistance funds to meet those needs, are these emergency assistance grants. These are one-time gifts for individuals who are in extreme financial need. If you have that need, or if you know of someone who has that need, I encourage them to apply for the emergency grant, and that is done through each presbytery. The presbytery leaders know about this, know how to do this, and they can submit those emergency grants electronically to the board, and they definitely will be considered by the staff as they look at the particular needs and work with the presbytery to help support our pastors. The other thing that I do want to remind folks, I'm sure that you have seen those emails, is that the board is providing for 100% coverage on all testing for COVID-19. We also have waived all Teladoc copays for our plan members through the end of June. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this is not just solely for COVID-19. These Teladoc copays are for anyone who has a health condition that's not reserved for that. This is not the time where folks need to be going to the doctor because they have a sinus infection or an ear infection. That can be done using Teladoc. And we would encourage folks to use that, particularly now that there's no copay. Now, early on, folks had some very long wait times. And I had an email this morning on that showing that those wait times now have grown much, much smaller. Unfortunately, at the very beginning, when there were some folks who were sick, they had to wait for a good long time before Teladoc would call them back. But now those wait times have diminished and they're much, much more reasonable. So we want to encourage people and let you know that that's a $0 copay. And, you know, if you need a doctor, please use that. Our employee assistance program, which provides counseling for every member of the household, is available to our plan members. Remember, even if your family members are not enrolled in the plan, they still have access to the EAP and are eligible to receive what has been up to 6 free visits for any particular need or mental health incident. And that can be done now up to 10 free visits. The way that's working is that when a person calls in and is authorized 6 visits, at the end of those 6 visits, the counselor then will reach out to Cigna, who is then able to grant an additional 4 free visits. And this will go through the end of September. That will be available for our plan members. One of the things I also have had questions about is, well, what about our retirees? Because many of our retirees are not covered under the employee assistance program. And what about those church workers who are not members of the plan? Well, with Cigna, we are offering all of those folks access to the 24-hour support line. They can receive mental health counseling through that 24-hour line. It's a different number, and that information is on pensions.org. If you go on to the homepage, the Board of Pensions, one of the lead articles is 100% about mental health benefits that are available for folks. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that. The other thing that I continue to receive questions about are the recently released information pertaining to dues waiver and deferment, that a church may have its dues waived for up to 3 months if it's a church under 300 members with one pastor who's enrolled in pastor's participation. If they have extreme need, that they're in financial distress, they can apply for the waiver. Now, the waiver does not cover the cost of optional benefits, but it covers the cost of pastor's participation. I want to pause there and say I've had some folks say, well, why is the board doing this just for churches under 300? Churches over 300 also have financial challenges. Well, we're aware of that, and that's why we are offering deferment for those. But we want to remind folks that those churches under 300 members who have a pastor's participation, most of the time that pastor is enrolled because of the Book of Order mandate. If somebody is an installed pastor, they have to be enrolled in the benefits plan of the PCUSA, and they have no other option. And so we're hoping that through this waiver, it will keep that pastor engaged in ministry, involved in filling the pulpit electronically, moderating the session, and doing those things to keep those communities of faith viable and active and serving, particularly during this time of crisis. This is not a time where we need for a church to be furloughing pastors. If anything, we need pastors more deeply engaged in ministry to serve their congregations. Then dues deferment is for those churches over 300 members, as well as any other large employer or any other employer. And in that situation, dues may be deferred for up to 2 months on a case-by-case basis with those who have need. And those deferred dues then are paid in regular installments over the remainder of 2020 with no interest or penalty being applied. So if a church needed to waive, let's say, the dues for April and May, then the actual cost for that would be spread over the August through December payments for the remainder of this year. Now, folks continue to say, well, how do we do this? It is done totally on a case-by-case basis. And so if you want to investigate that, then I would urge you to contact Member Services at the normal 1-800-773-7752 number, and talk to the Member Service representative, explain to them your needs, and work with them to see if you can obtain that waiver or deferment. The other thing that we have done is that we have waived the hourly requirement for those who are currently enrolled in the plan. In order to be eligible for benefits, one has to be 20 hours a week or more to receive pension, disability and death, and health care benefits through the Board of Pensions. And during this time, if a church needs to reduce those hours because of financial need to under 20 hours a week, or even if they need to furlough an employee, again, these are people who are currently enrolled in the plan. If they keep paying their benefits, they can remain enrolled in the plan and receive those benefits. This gives churches an opportunity to work with employees to maintain their benefits. I have visited with several churches now who have had to furlough some employees, and those folks have labored long and hard to try to avoid this. And it's a very difficult and tough decision, both mentally and spiritually. So we want churches to be able to help try to retain the benefits for these employees by doing this. If they need to do that, they would want to contact Employer Services at the 800 number and adjust their employer agreement so that they can have that on file and make sure that the board knows what's going on with their employees. So that's sort of the first half, as it were. So I'm going to pause there and wait for Valerie to come up with any questions that may have arisen.
Okay, Kevin, you have two questions that were submitted. First, in regards to the waiver, is there a deadline to apply? We are not in extreme need now, but later, maybe later, depends on how the pledges come in.
That is something that I just learned about on the phone call or the go-to meeting previous to this Zoom call. There's not a deadline that has been set to that we're hearing. We do see that this is not going to go on and on and on. But I think that if pledges are coming in now and churches do not need to respond at this moment, then of course there's not the need. But if need occurs, then by all means contact the board. If that's next month or the next month. Now, if we are in August or September, I don't know if that's going to be the same story. But at least in this time period, if there is need that is beginning to arise, then by all means, initiate those conversations.
Thank you. The next question is, does this have an impact on churches? And I believe that the question is referring to the waivers or the deferments. Does this have an impact on churches that might be paying vacancy dues in the time that they are without a pastor?
No, because we ended vacancy dues starting last year. Vacancy dues have been gone now because we stopped charging vacancy dues January 1 of 2019. Now, we do still have some churches that are paying post-retirement service dues. And that is when there is a pastor who is in post-retirement service. And those dues are 12%, which was the same rate as vacancy dues. So some folks think they're paying vacancy dues when it's actually post-retirement service dues. If they do have an issue with that, I don't know if that's going to cover, I'm unsure if the waiver applies to post-retirement service dues, but that would be worth calling the board and asking, does it cover that? Because again, those decisions are made on a case-by-case basis. The person receives the information, then it goes to their manager, who then reviews it and then sends it on for approval. So it's everything that we receive is going to be individually read and reviewed and either approved or not.
Great, thank you. One more. You're being asked if you can provide the web link to the counseling support line to church employees who are not members of the Board of Pensions medical plan. That's a phone number, right? Or was there a?
That's a phone number. And if you go onto the board's website, pensions.org, and on the homepage, there is a listing of mental health resources during COVID-19. And on there, it will give the information both for Cigna EAP as well as another number for the 24-hour helpline.
Great. And perhaps at the end of this, I can call that up and share the screen maybe at the end. Okay, great. That's all the questions.
Okay. Well, So now we'll, in that case, if those are those questions, then we'll move into the benefits plan for next year, and begin with a little bit of look back. That this plan was put together, the plan we're under now, following reunion. Reunion occurred in 1983, but it was not until 1987 that the benefits plans of the former UP Church and the PCUS Church were merged together to form what is now the Board of Pensions. And we have had for pastors and others, largely was the traditional benefits plan, which was declining from its inception at the rate of about 5% a year, largely based on retirements. In 2017, we changed the plan because, for a lot of reasons, a lot of which has to do with, first, there were large employers who wanted benefits for their employees, but did not have access to them because what we offered didn't meet their needs. Also, we had brought into the plan some lay employees through our affiliated benefits program, and we essentially had some confusion related to that. And we had a plan that was, by and large, one size fits nobody, except for ordained pastors. By moving to menu options and pastors' participation, we set apart two groups, of course, one in pastors' participation, which is mandated by the Book of Order, to provide those benefits of pension, medical, disability, and death for those who were installed in churches. Churches also, at their own choice, could put a pastor in pastor's participation, such as an interim pastor. And then we created menu options, which offered a wider variety of healthcare options, also some of which at lower cost, so that other employers would be able to participate in the benefits plan. Well, we have moved to, under menu options, of having a preferred provider organization, the exclusive provider organization, and the high deductible healthcare plan, with 3 different medical options with FSAs and other items. And in doing that, our plan has grown substantially, with a lot of affiliated employers coming into the plan. And I could go down a list of various entities within Synod of the Sun who have come into our benefits plan in the last 3 years because of those opportunities being given to them. And their employees now are receiving better benefits at equal to what they were paying, or in some cases, a lower cost. So we have served more people, but there is also the need to really serve the church. And in doing that, the board is expanding the plan even further with a new bundle of benefits for non-installed pastors, as well as bringing into the plan some meeting some needs that we have had from our affiliated employers, as well as within churches, both for temporary disability and a standalone disability plan. So that is what we're looking at next year, is continuing to expand the benefits plan. And in doing so, the board is trying to help people better understand the broader range of benefits that are offered. And one of the reasons we are doing this really is to meet the needs of our pastors in the PCUSA. Since 2007, our denomination has ordained over 3,500 ministers. And of those folks, over 1,000 of them were ordained to positions that did not have benefits through the Board of Pensions. That's almost a third of those ordained. And we see that trend continuing. That's over a 10-year period. But when you look in a shorter term, over the last 3 years, there is a large number of people who are being ordained who are not receiving benefits through the board. And so this is going to provide an avenue for those who are ordained in the church to such positions as serving as a tent maker, to an evangelist starting a new worshiping community, to a chaplain in a hospital, a hospice, or even on a campus, to those who serve as a pastor working in a nonprofit, to all those folks who are receiving other forms of benefits, but continue to say to the board, and I hear this at every Presbyterian meeting I attend, how can I get benefits? How can I get into the pension plan in particular? And so that's one of the reasons we're seeking to meet those particular needs. So next year, we will be looking at what we are broadly defining as programs. So this is going to be new terminology, but we have our retirement programs, which is our defined benefit pension plan and the retirement savings plan. Then our financial protection programs, the death and disability plan that everybody knows, our term life plan that we introduced 2 years ago, our new temporary disability plan, and then a long-term disability that is distinct from our current D&D. And then on the health programs, we have the medical, it's the PPO, the EPO, and the high deductible, our post-retirement plan, which is our current Medicare supplement plan, our employee assistance plan, our dental plan, and vision eyewear, and then attached with healthcare are the HSA, the health savings account that is offered with the high deductible, and the flexible spending account, which can be offered with the PPO or the EPO. The important thing to note for next year, pastors' participation is going to be expanded and enhanced to include that temporary disability plan. So some of the details for next year is that the defined benefit pension dues will decrease from 11% to 8.5% with no change in the plan and no reduction in pension benefits. The dues will remain the same, the benefits will remain the same, but the dues cost will decrease to the church. Death and disability remain the same, and then temporary disability is going to be added at 0.5%. Medical dues, which have been stable for the last 3 years, will rise slightly to 27% of effective salary. And our employee assistance plan, of course, is included in that. And the total dues cost will remain at 37% of effective salary for next year. A brief word on temporary disability. One of the things that I have encountered that has been one of the more challenging aspects for churches and other employers is when a church has to put an employee on disability. Under our current benefits plan, that when a person goes on disability, from day 1 through the 90th day, the church has to pay for everything. They have to pay the salary, pay the benefits for that employee for 90 days. Then on the 91st day, the disability plan will kick in and the obligations of the church for salary and dues end on the 90th day. And there are some churches that can't afford that, but smaller churches, quite frankly, 3 months without a pastor and still paying for everything is a challenge, particularly when you're trying to do pulpit supply, get somebody to moderate the session, provide staff leadership, and do all those other things that the pastor does. The new temporary disability plan will work where temporary disability will begin on the 15th day. So day 1 through 14 would be sick leave or vacation or just temporary leave granted by the church. And then on the 15th day of disability, temporary disability would kick in to pay 60% of the pastor's salary from day 15 through day 90. And that will take a lot of pressure off of churches and give them what they need to go out and secure some temporary leadership or to prepare for having to move into an interim situation if it is seen that probably that pastor is going to need to go on disability. So I'm very excited about this aspect of expanding pastors' participation because I've seen exactly where this can meet some needs of churches in some very, very critical times in the life of that church. Then also want to share with you that information related to minister's choice. This will be a new benefits package for ministers that will grant them access to the defined benefits pension plan. It will provide them death and disability. It will also provide them the temporary disability and grant them access to the employee assistance plan. We will also attach to this eligibility for CRADO, for ministers' debt assistance, for healthy pastors, healthy congregations, and the Sabbath sabbatical support grant. Now, there are eligibility requirements for debt assistance, healthy pastors, and Sabbath sabbatical support, but a church that has enrolled a pastor in minister's choice will have access to these benefits. Now, the best way to think of these, quite frankly, is pastor's participation is for an installed pastor. Minister's choice is for a non-installed pastor. This is a way for those folks who serve as stated supply, who serve, as I mentioned, as tent makers, chaplains, work for nonprofits and other entities to have access to some of the benefits of the Board of Pensions. The minimum threshold, like our other benefits, is for an employee who works 20 hours a week or more to be able to have access to these benefits. It really is designed to provide financial protection for those who serve the church. One of the things I've encountered over the years is I've related several times and met with a conference of tent makers for the Peace USA. And these are folks who are working full-time in other professions in a variety of ways. Carpenters, farmers, insurance agents, and all kinds of different ways in which folks basically keep the lights on at home and keep their families fed. But then they serve as the pastor of a church, and they moderate sessions, they make calls on their members in the evenings, they do everything under the sun on the weekend, and really are faithful servants to congregations. And many of those folks who have never been able to qualify for benefits, well, this avenue, minister's choice, will give a route for those type of folks who have been very faithful servants. So I'm excited about that. Again, just to this kind of shows you what it is, what this offers, and also I think really highlights for us the actual cost. A lot of these folks don't always receive a lot in compensation because many of these folks are part-time. And if they're getting $25,000 in salary, those dues cost for minister's choice is $2,500 a year. Now, I could spend a lot of time here unpacking that, but just to remind you that that is a tremendous value. That means death benefits for an employee, and those death benefits are based, if somebody's under the median, the death benefit is based at the median. The median this year is $60,800. I mean, that's amazing. So, yeah, there are a lot of different ways that a faithful servant can be supported with providing these kind of benefits for them. So, and these are the kind of conversations, we want, largely introducing here, but want to engage in deeper conversations, particularly with committees on ministry throughout the Synod of the Son, to really have the opportunity to discuss in detail how the local congregations in each presbytery can take advantage of this new package of benefits or access some of the other new benefits. This is just a reminder, why would you do that? Well, is to really provide that financial protection and give them access to a lot of the board's programs. But in the end, it's about understanding that we have a lot of good, faithful people who really need to be supported by our presbyteries, and their employers need to be nudged to seriously consider enrolling in these programs so that they can receive just and fair compensation. And part of that just and fair compensation really is having access to benefits. So with that, I've seen the little pop-ups with some more questions. So Valerie,
are you ready, Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first one is just a comment. This person says, "This is exciting, and I'm grateful." So that's good. The next question is the one: do commissioned pastors qualify for minister's choice?
Unfortunately, no, because this is for folks who are ordained ministers of Word and Sacrament in the PCUSA. This particular program was identified to address this gap in benefits of those ordained and those who are not receiving benefits. Understanding that the board studies continue to show that those who receive benefits are 50% more likely to stay in ministry, stay engaged in ministry, and not leave ministry. Because the numbers are very clear that if people don't receive benefits and don't have the salaries they need, they leave ministry altogether.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't have any other questions. Y'all continue to type, but I would like to readdress a previously asked question about the contact for retired folks who don't have access to the EAP.
Yes.
While you've been talking, I've been looking that up and I can't find it.
Okay.
So if you have the ability, maybe what we'll do is make sure that we email everyone who's present if you can't come up with it right away.
I'm going to try to pull this up. I actually have it on pensions.org. I just need to.
Super. There's just so much on that webpage. And it seemed to me that everything was marked EAP, so it's possible that I overlooked it.
Okay, let's.
And if anyone else has questions, now would be the time to ask.
Here we go.
Let's share the right screen. There you go.
There we go. Is okay. Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
I know I saw it because I saw that she the other day.
Well, what we can do
Sure.
is everyone will get a follow-up email probably tomorrow. Everyone that's been on this call, and what I can do is make sure that either the link or the phone number is made a part of that email, so everyone will get it.
Okay.
That work for you? So that'll give you some time to hunt that down.
That's why.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions, Kevin, so you must have done a really thorough job, obviously, of presenting information for 2021, and I know folks are really excited about that. Have anything else for us?
Well, I just thank you again for this opportunity, and the last slide that we showed had both the 800 number, but also had my email address. So that if folks want to reach out to me, I would encourage them to do that. And again, I do hope to be able to engage committees on ministry at a deeper level with some of these benefits and think creatively with them how they might engage those pastors in their presbyteries related to minister's choice. Again, you know, the board continues to expand benefits, and we try to bring more and more people under the umbrella. We are doing our best to meet those needs that are out there. I know there are cases where we don't meet every need, but we continue to grow that, and I hope that eventually we'll be able to meet all the needs of our big tent church.
Thank you, Kevin. There was one more question. Where do we find when a pre-retirement seminar is coming up? I'm guessing the answer to that is there might be some on the calendar, but they're questionable at this point in the life of COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, what is scheduled? Currently, things are postponed. We're for that. Is to look in the, you're looking in, okay, our pictures are covering where I need to be on the screen. But if you look under the resources of the board and you're looking for education, and it has the pre-retirement seminars that are listed for 2020. And if somebody's in particular just saying, okay, when is the one going to be this year? I can tell you scheduled right now, the pre-retirement seminar is now called Thrive, will be offered at Austin Seminary on October 1 and 2 of this year. So that's great. October 1 and 2. That's a Thursday, Friday at Austin Seminary.
Super, thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I do believe it was providential that we arranged this date and time to do this well before shelter in place took effect. But I'm, nevertheless grateful for your time and all of the explanation, and also grateful to the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your help and support in this, and look forward to working with everybody.
Okay, and folks, again, keep a lookout for an invitation to register for other upcoming webinars for the Synod. And if there is anything or any way that you can think of that the Synod might be of assistance to you in these days, please feel free to reach out to us. Blessings. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.